Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. I now call to order our February council meeting, one day after our town's 132nd anniversary. Before we get to the agenda and have the invocation, I know a lot of folks are here for one issue. Mainly, we're going to move the agenda around, and there's an event coming up that I think a lot of people are concerned about. We're going to take that first. We do not have a speaking time limit tonight, but as a presiding officer, if you start repeating the same things, we're going to move you along. We want everybody to speak who wants to speak tonight, just due to the nature of the last several days leading up to this meeting. I'm not going to tolerate loud whispers in the audience, any laughter or mocking anybody that's speaking. And we're going to ask everybody to come to the podium. Just want to lay those ground rules out first. And I now recognize Councilman Nathaniel Miller, who will lead us with the invocation.
Let's pray. Heavenly, most grateful Father, as we come here tonight, I want to say, God, thank you. Thank you for letting us see another day. And as we go about this meeting tonight, let cooler heads prevail, not trivial personality. Dear God, bless this meeting, bless the council, and bless everybody that showed up. These are all blessings we ask. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. We now invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank everybody for coming out. We have 4 scheduled hearings that are mainly routine, but staff has graciously allowed me to deviate from the meeting, so let me just get right to it. Many of you are here tonight because there is an event that's been scheduled for March 14th at 12 noon on the lawn of Swartz Tavern. How did we get here? I'm going to issue brief facts and an apology at the same time. I received a message about 2 to 3 weeks ago from a Mr. Gregory Robertson, who's been going to the courthouse. He's in the audience tonight. He asked if his group could assemble at Swartz Tavern. He asked for my permission, and my response to him was, as mayor, I don't have the authority to grant permission or deny permission. What does your request entail? What does a gathering entail? He was not asking for a street closure. He was not asking to use a public building. He was not selling. He and his group would not be selling any goods. And so my response to him was, I don't believe you need permission to gather on the grounds of Swartz Tavern. Let me check with the town manager. I was slow in doing that. And in the meantime, Mr. Robertson submitted an article to the newspaper, which of course we know where I work. And that article got published as an event coming soon to Swartz Tavern. And I believe that's what caused a lot of concern last Thursday, Wednesday to Thursday night, roundabouts, thereabouts. So we have various pieces of property in town, but there is no policy for Swartz Tavern, and there is no policy, ladies and gentlemen, in this audience tonight. Not just police officers, but each of you are allowed, if you so chose, to bring a weapon loaded into these chambers. Virginia is very liberal on the Second Amendment, and personally, I like that. Many of y'all may not, but that's just, we're governed by laws, not desires and passions. So that's how we got here. My apologies to the members of town council who were blindsided by the article. That's on me. The minute that article was received, I should have called, and I can't take it back. I can just tell you that's how we got here. Mr. Robertson is asked to speak last about his event. There's been a lot of concerns. There have been some, harsh words, that sort of thing. We don't need to relitigate that. Anyone tonight who'd like to ask questions or express concerns about the event on March 14th, the militia muster call, this is your chance to do so. Well, apparently I misgauged the audience. I see Ms. Pamela Williams, if you would come to the podium. Good evening.
Lord Jesus. Yeah, my hair looks a mess.
You look fine.
First of all, I just heard about the militia meeting this week, even though I work for the paper Wednesday night, put the paper together. I did not read it. Not because I don't read the paper,
It's all right.
just because
It's all right. It's
going
okay.
on.
It's all right.
But I'm trying to figure out what is the militia's intent? What's the need for it? Who are you including in this gathering? Are we going to be like Charlottesville? End up like Charlottesville? Is it going to end up to a point where I came here by the way of the military. Most people know that. And we have moved our offices to DSCR in Richmond. And I chose to retire because I did not want to move out of Blackstone. But in the same sense, if we have militias coming to town and my grandkids got to be fearful, or I got to be fearful like something like Charlottesville is going to happen, every time somebody asks me from here on out, why do you stay in Blackstone? I might not be saying that because I don't want to live in a town where people think it's okay for diversity. Because, like I said, I was in the military for 20 years, retired, now I'm retiring from the federal government. I don't want to do that. And I hope that's why you see a lot of people here tonight, because we don't want to live in that environment. And if that's what they're bringing, I don't know what they're bringing. But nobody knew what they were bringing in Charlottesville either. But we know how that turned out. And we don't want to be on the news for that. So if whoever the guy is, I don't know what's his name.
Mr. Gregory Robertson, he's here tonight.
And
He's
Mr.
going to address.
Gregory, it can address to us an outline of actually what they want to do and what their intent is, then we all for hearing it. But we're not for division. We have enough division going on in the United States of America. We do not need it here in Blackstone. Because this is my home, this is where my kids, grandkids are, and I don't have but 2 children, and both of them live in Blackstone. All my grandkids live here. My family is here. I have made this my home. And I cannot, after 20 years of service, let diversity run me away. And that's what it would be. And I would tell all my friends when they tell me again, Pam, why do you like this little town of Blackstone? I said, my kids are pretty, my grandkids, I get to see them every day. My son's here. But if I can't even explain to them why now if we keep allowing stuff like this. But I need to hear the whole story before I make up.
I agree. I understand, and I think the word militia was going to be better explained later on. I think that, for a variety of reasons, that word connotate for a lot of folks represents different things.
We know how the United States got started. Everybody know how.
Right.
This militia stuff, we already been. Everybody been pretty much adult in here. Should have passed 9th grade history lesson, and so we know what a militia is, and we know how it got started, what the intent was but we know how Charlottesville turned out. Okay. And that's what I'm scared of.
Thank you so much for speaking. Who else would like to follow Ms. Pamela Way? I see Mr. William Clark. William Hayes Clark. We have corresponded a little bit this weekend.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Good evening.
And most of you know me, and I've been on Facebook since 2007. And I don't usually bring issues to Facebook. The only reason I posted what I posted on Facebook, because I need to be posted. Because I'm a black man, and it's not racist. But you all got to think of 2 things. Militia, no disrespect, Mr. Robinson, Rusty, it's a code word to some black peoples. White supremacy, I'm just being real with you. And that's what we all got to think sometimes, is what people thinking in their head. And my serious issue is I wrote down what I'm going to say a little bit, but I just got to talk from the heart. I'm a Democrat, but I don't come here for Democrat. I don't come here for Virginia. I come here as a Blackstonian. This is all about us in Blackstone and the safety and welfare of the citizen. I live a half mile from this. And my point is this, before I read my part, is nothing against you, Mr. Robinson, Rusty. I'm afraid what element he going to draw. Pull one, like the last episode they had when the kids were riding with Confederate flags through Petersburg. My issue is this. I know, and I'm being honest with you, I know a lot of the young black kids that got illegal guns, and somebody riding around with a flag parade through their neighborhood. It's not going to be good. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If anything happens, we all responsible. Now I'm going to read this little thing here I wrote, and I hope I don't offend nobody, but I did it. Here you go. I have 2 main issues. One with the process in which Mr. Robinson and his group was given the green light or encouraged by the town of Blackstone, Virginia, and Nottaway County officials to have the rally in Blackstone, Virginia. I feel this group was coached and aided and told about loopholes by some of the town officials. I'm just being honest. the town council should have been made known of the loopholes and adjusted them. I just, I'm reading and talking on my head at the same time. I'm also, I just concerned about how the process, we voted these people in for a reason. And that was a big deal, but I swear to God, all respect, I love you like a brother. But I think something that big, council should have been notified. The group should have been vetted. No disrespect, Rusty. The group is young. When I say young, they're only 3 weeks old. Now they're gonna bring people in here with guns. Nowhere on his page he said about a checkpoint. How we know the bullet? He said not gonna be, but how we know the bullet's not gonna be in the gun? You don't need but one person. One person. And then we gonna all sit back around then, oh, we should have done this. And the reason I put it on Facebook, because in my heart, I couldn't live with myself if something would have happened, some little kid or somebody get hurt, or one of his members get hurt trying to mess with a gun on what they're doing. I wouldn't live with myself if I bring it to your attention. My number one point, I don't have nothing against the Second Amendment. I don't have nothing against the right to assemble. I'm concerned about the safety factor. My phone has been ringing off the hook from older black folks that just find out about it. And they're afraid. And nobody's supposed to live in a town afraid, man. I'm not scared. But you got old folks that's actually scared, man. I know one of them, she going out of town to the event. And y'all elected to put fear? That's not right, man. So I done got off my speech.
That's okay.
But it's not right. I lived all my damn life, man, and I'm not gonna walk around in fear or let none of my friends walk around in fear. And no disrespect to you, civil man. I know myself at the town of Blackstone. If something go on wrong here, we don't need no civil patrol. We're gonna help each other. And we have rights for cleaning up bushes. I know if any of y'all get in a cramp, I'm gonna help you. I mean, it's his right to do what you want to write. I respect that, bro. I respect it to the high. It's a free country. But it's my right as a citizen of Blackstone to live in my town in peace, man. And not without fear.
Thank you, Mr.
That's
Cole.
damn true.
Well, we appreciate your comments, and anyone else? Anyone else? I see Mr. Donnie Edgerton.
I don't have anything planned tonight, but basically speaking on the behalf of the militia the meeting, it's not bringing in a group of people. We're already here. It's lawyers, doctors, farmers. It's people who care about this community. It's not a race thing. It's not about. It's just people that want to be left alone, and we feel their rights are getting trampled on in Richmond. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Edgerton. Anyone else from the audience before council deliberates? And just for a point of order, there is no request before this council because, and I believe me, I was sweating it out last Thursday night when people, and I apologize to members of the black community, William, the feeling's mutual. I did not, when Rusty first reached out to me, alarm bells didn't go off for me. I don't know Mr. Robertson that well. I've seen him at 2 board of supervisor meetings, and he seems like a really nice guy, and that's just the way I treat people. I assume the best in people, and it didn't trigger anything for me. And when he asked me, I said, wait a minute, you're asking about Swartz Tavern? There's no permission needed for what you're asking. And then I said, Philip, am I right? And Philip said, you are right. There is no, town square is a process for DBI. C Park, if you're getting married, I think you have to call the clerk and get and maybe something will come of this like that. Yes.
Mayor, I got off my speech when I was up there at Mr. Main Point. I mean, what's wrong with them just relocating? Maybe have at the Armory, where it's controlled. Maybe at the ballpark where they fenced in. My biggest problem about that Swartz Tavern is, his group might be wonderful people, but you can get a nutcase, can get off of Main Street, walk in, and go crazy. Not affiliated with nobody group. And then get off the crowd and go right back on Main Street, going back to business. I'm just concerned about security. Right. If you can have it on the complex where it's a fenced-in area and things under control, hey, I'll keep my little, where I stay at home. I wouldn't even say it now.
Right. Let's hear from somebody. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Anyone else? I thought I saw one of the hands. Yes, sir. And I don't have my glasses on. Yes, Mr. Moore, I'm sorry, now I see.
Don't live here in town, but I have worked here for 20 years. I think a few of you probably have known me. I think I've probably fixed your jewelry at some point. And I have heard about this militia meeting, and I have every intention of trying to take my lunch break and go and support everybody that is interested in preserving one of the fundamental rights that our country was founded on. I can understand people being apprehensive and not understanding what's going on. I can totally understand that. And I think that I could speak for everybody in the Second Amendment community that we would be happy to have you there. And we'd be happy to educate you. We'd be happy to explain to you. And I know personally, I'd be happy to take you shooting sometime. If you are nervous about it, I would love to. And I think we have a lot of good officers here that would be happy to explain that to you as well. But I think that's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, thank you. Anyone else before I get to Mr. Robertson, who I'm sure will address some of these concerns? And I'm gonna let you, Mr. Robertson, come up, and just when you're coming to the podium, I think a question that a lot of people in the audience have, and I'm embarrassed to tell you, I'm a college graduate. I had to look up the word muster in the dictionary. It's not a term familiar to me. But some people out there say, what are you trying to do? You planning to overthrow Richmond? Are you planning, what can you say to appease the fears and educate all of us here tonight?
All right, good evening, citizens, council, Mr. Mayor. Gregory Robertson, resident of Nottaway County. And put simply, militia is Latin for military service. Now, in Virginia, there exist 3 militias already. We all live with every day. You have the National Guard, Virginia Defense Force, and the unorganized militia, which is anyone the age of 16 to 55. Now, that's who I'm calling upon, is the unorganized militia to come and muster, so we'll know who has what. That's why I asked for arms, unloaded arms. When unloaded arms, we know who has what, if they're able to respond to the sheriff, in case the sheriff needs to deputize or form a posse. We didn't know who has what. And we're going to show everyone that you can trust a citizen with a gun, a good citizen, a law-abiding citizen with a gun. Because I was at Richmond, and there were over 20,000 of us there. Nothing happened. We even cleaned up the streets after we were done. Now, I'm calling on the unorganized militia. There's 2 different things. There's the Virginia Civil Guard, which is who I represent, and there's the unorganized militia. I'm calling from the unorganized militia to recruit to the Virginia Civil Guard. Now, the Virginia Civil Guard will act as a civil service for our community. If there's inclement weather, a natural disaster, civil unrest, anything that the county needs help with. If there's horrible snow and the elderly can't shovel the driveways, we'll be there with shovels to clear the driveway. If there's a highway that needs cleanup, we'll clean it up. We want to serve our community, and we invite everybody to show up, to join us, because we're all we got in a time of disaster. There's no guarantee when the National Guard can get there or when an emergency service can get there. But some good citizens with a chainsaw can clear a tree off the road faster than it takes the National Guard to get there. And that's what we want to do, is to serve our community and to give back. Because the highest law everyone has to obey is to love your neighbor as yourself. Now, a lot of people are afraid that we're some racial organization. We're not. We do not support any form of racial supremacy. If there is anyone who's acting up or breaking the law, they will be reported to the local authorities and dismissed. We won't tolerate that, because our goal is to serve each and every one of you in times of need. And that's the main thing we want to accomplish, is to take the patriotism and love of the people of this county, and there's good people in this county, and we're going to harness that to do some good. Rather than just sitting around, we're actually going to do some good. And that's why we're going to have this muster.
Okay. Any members of council with questions for Mr. Robertson?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Miller?
Okay, I'm hearing what you've said. Now, you're saying you're gonna have guns. Now, to me, it doesn't make a difference about your militia. First of all, we can't stop that. But if you were gonna do this, my question is, if you were gonna do this, Don't you think you should have explained this a little bit more before all these people got upset?
Well,
Because what you're telling us is the opposite of what we feel.
That's good news.
now,
You know, you're telling me that you're going to help the and all this, you know. But what I'm saying is, if this would have been better prepared, you know, then people would have known before all this came up. Because me, I knew nothing about this until Thursday night. I'm sitting there playing on my phone. Everybody going crazy. They're going to take Blackstone over and all this. See, only thing I'm saying is it should have been better prepared where people would have known what's going on, and then you wouldn't have all this. Now nobody knows what's going on, and March the 14th, you're going to have your thing.
That's not, in fairness to Mr. Robertson reached out to me, and if there's any mistake in the communication, it lies with me. I will address one thing, and I'm not gonna play Facebook here in the town hall, but there was no attempt on this mayor's part to keep anything secret. I talked about it on my Facebook Live address last week. It was a large article in the paper last week. There's been no attempt on anyone's part, his or mine, to keep this secret. It's like I said earlier, I thought the request was benign, the request was in keeping with town policy, and it wasn't, you know, he wasn't asking for the square or the Sea Park gazebo. I can't speak to the courthouse. That's not my domain. Yes, Mr. Edgerton.
What month did he bring it up at the courthouse?
December.
December.
Yes, December, and then again in January was considered.
now, Mr. Miller, I did address these things in the flyer that I put out,
Which is in the,
which is in the newspaper.
and some highlights. I'm not his PR spokesperson, but some highlights were you're asking for anyone that brings guns that they be unloaded. That there are any flags on display, it'd be the United States of America or Virginia.
No Confederate flags. Anyone who brings a Confederate flag or even a "Don't Tread on Me" flag will be turned away.
Mr. Clark.
I mean, I can't ask him a question. Can someone up there ask him how he know the gun's not gonna be loaded? What process he got in place? If you got 1,500 people showing up in the Swiss Tavern where you can come in any direction you want to get into it, who's gonna assure us that they're not walking, somebody coming from the mini market exit or down by the stagecoach walking in behind a loaded gun? I mean, how that's going? That's my point. To say how you gonna know who's got a.
At the point of registry, we will ask them, and then they will demonstrate that the weapon is not
What I'm
loaded.
saying, I'm not arguing with you, Rusty, but you say you're gonna act with it. My point, that place is wide open. People are coming from everywhere. It's about 3 entrances to that place alone, walking.
Anyone,
That's a question, Mr. Clark. I'll be honest with you. I'm a big Second Amendment supporter, but then again, I have to go back to January 20th in Richmond, and that same threat existed. And one possible answer, I'm not saying it's my answer, but a possible answer could be with so many good men and women with guns, that is a deterring factor.
Mayor, remember this point. Richmond was planned, had 3 or 4 checkpoints, over 5,000 officers, undercover, etc. People were vetted. We playing with fire here, folks. Y'all might not want to admit it, but we playing with fire. Your attention might be good. You don't need but one lunatic. And it'll be serious.
There's no doubt. I mean, just like the Christmas parade.
That's my point, man. Make sure them guns at least are empty.
in all due respect, you
See,
can do
guys-
hypothetical arguments for any scenario. We can do this well into the night, but we will make sure that those weapons are unarmed, and if we have any form of confrontation or disruptors, we will contact the local authorities. I've talked to the sheriff. He's well aware of the event, and he is fine.
I saw one hand on the back row. Yes, sir. If you just state your name for the clerk.
Okay, I'm Sean Youngblood. I live in Crewe, Virginia. I just want to add a couple of things that these issues that a lot of you guys have, you could have come to us and asked us personally. And there are things that we could have done to fix your issues that you wanted to address with us, such as having checkpoints set up. There are several instances we can have people that have already volunteered their time to do that very thing. It's not hard. And we could also, like, I forgot what his name was, but he asked about the other places that we could have it at. The Armory, I think he said. I'm not familiar with Blackstone, but we can do that. We can work with the people. We're not here to be arrogant and argue and push against what other people may think that are outside of our organization.
Would an alternate location be off the table? Is that something you'd consider?
If we could do the National Guard Armory, which is right across
The
the
big
street from
field?
the tavern, It won't cause as much disruption for the event and will also protect us in case of rain.
But haven't we decided that the armor is not gonna be used until?
Not the building, but we've had no policy discussion about the open lawn. The building has been locked for the winter.
And our goal is not to have conflict with any form of government, but to assist. If the flyer says we're going to try to uphold all the laws, we're not trying to overthrow anyone, we're not trying to create any form of disturbance. We're trying to do the exact opposite and help the members of the community. Because there's a lot of people that need help out there.
Okay, I saw Mr. Michael Bagley and then Dr. Clarence Hawks.
Good afternoon. I'd like to know, where have you been when we had community outreach in the neighborhood? We had cleanup several times in this town. Where have you been? What have you did in the past to let us know that you are organized organization?
Well, I've tried for many years to get this off the ground. It's only this turn of events in history was the catalyst to get the proper publicity that we needed. As you remember, I was in the park at Shea Park, flying flags one day. I was in the paper.
I do, you and
I've
Joey,
been
yeah, I
trying
do
for
remember that.
years. Now there's finally a catalyst. People are willing to get off their couch and come help.
I saw, after, I saw Dr. Clarence Hawks. Good evening.
Coming to speak, but
That's-
this thing is reserved. But you know, we are in Southside Virginia, and we're in the southern part of Virginia, and I often hear about the Second Amendment. Well, in my neighborhood and all across Nottoway County on a Saturday, you hear people shooting some very expensive guns with a lot of ammunition all the time. We spend too much time talking about the militia in Nottoway County and Blackstone when we should be talking about health care for the people. We should be talking about how we can make our community better. Do you all understand the history of militia? Have you studied militia? It has a relationship to, yes, racism. It has a relationship to the Ku Klux Klan. It has a relationship for oppressing people. It has a relationship with many negative overtures, and overturns. People of Blackstone should be more interested in improving their people, empowering them, developing their abilities and their success stories, and helping the elderly people improve their health conditions by opening up maybe a medical center that stays open 24 hours a day.
We're working on that.
Okay? You invited the best of people to come into this area, people from outside Nottoway County. And I have gotten calls from people from all over the United States who read your newspaper and want to know how come we are setting up a governmental agency to help other countries, and now you're also supporting people who have relationships with militias. Think about it.
Well, just to clarify, you said we have an agency that helps other countries.
FASTA.
Oh, FAST-C.
FAST-C, okay.
Right, well,
Is that is setting up a governmental relationship where you're going to other countries and talking about democracy?
yes, sir, but this town council is not involved in that.
Where it has a relationship when you put it in the paper.
Certainly, it's an asset our community has, certainly,
Yeah,
certainly.
But what I'm saying, people on the outside look at it as a connection. We don't need to spend our time walking around with guns and doing the salute arms and all that kind of stuff. If you want to help people, you don't have to have a gun.
Well, I just want to be clear.
If I could say something, Mr.
If you
Cole.
want to help people, you just
Let's go
connect
round and
with the
round.
community. You don't have to
I'll
have
just
a
make a circle.
Well, I'm going to entertain two more speakers, but just as a point of order, no one on this council, all we do is we get requests, and we are trying to handle them as fairly and expeditiously as we can. And I will just tell you right now, from this mayor's standpoint, if that organization had been atheist against Billy Colburn, I would have given them the same, just whoever the group is. That's the way I try to govern. Now, just because I happen to be a Second Amendment supporter did not make me more eager to help him than it would be anybody else. I want to recognize Sue Yates.
Wait a minute, I just have a question.
Yes.
Suppose they were the Black Panthers.
Yes, sir.
Remember, the Black Panthers
Yeah.
were the ones who initiated carrying guns into the community, and they were stopped stopped by the government.
If they
All right.
approached us for the right to assemble peacefully on Swartz Tavern, this mayor would listen to them.
Yeah, but still it would have a negative connotation.
That is the risk of the public square. That is the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. And the public square is the public square. I don't like the Westboro Baptists that shout evil stuff at veterans' funerals, but the alternative is to live in a state where we govern speech. And we don't have free speech.
We're not talking about free speech, we're talking about. the
Oh, sir, I think this is very much free speech tonight.
Protecting the rights of other people who feel that they're being infringed upon by this militia.
And we certainly, and we want to, that's why I had Mr. Robertson speak last. I want to assure everybody, this council considers the community sacred, and if anyone in this community is in fear, it makes me sad. Sometimes we can't allay every fear. The Christmas parade is probably one of the most dangerous nights of the year. In fact, we had a woman have a broken foot this year, a volunteer. That's one of the most dangerous nights of the year. And there have been rumors of violence at many Christmas parades in the past, and we had to have all the officers on duty. There's no guarantee. I saw Sue Yates had her hand up, and then there was another, I think Janice Hawks. Ms. Yates, and then we're going to wrap this thing up.
I don't come from this town, I come from Crew. But as I sit here tonight, and I've heard many, many debates over the Second Amendment, it really saddens me to hear there even be a debate, because this is bigger, guys, than the Second Amendment. I agree with Billy, this is about the First Amendment. Our First Amendment gives us the right to assemble. Our Second Amendment gives us the right to have free speech. Our Second Amendment gives us the right to bear arms. I don't own one, but I certainly will fight for my right to own one if I ever chose to. And I've done careful study as I listen here tonight. There's a clear divide in the room. Nobody ever really wants to talk about it. But I'm going to be brave tonight, and I'm going to talk about it. I have personally taken the time to study the thoughts and efforts and the heart of Martin Luther King. And I live to tell each and every one of you, whether you be black, white, purple, or green, that Martin Luther King supported our Constitution as it was written. And we need to lay down these fears. And we need to spend time loving one another. I am so tired of this becoming the subject matter. And so I'm speaking out tonight as being one that is pro everyone. Everyone in this community and in this world and in the United States counts. Each and every one of you are special in the eyes of God. And we have to stop with this talk. So I'm sorry for being so bold, but this is about our Constitution, the very document that created what that we live in today. This is how the United States was formed. Read it, guys. Study those that have said good things and that have tried to change the hearts and minds of people. And I think there is no greater man on the face of this earth that did his part to change the hearts and minds of than Martin Luther King. And you cannot say you support him if you do not share his heart.
Thank you, Ms. Yates. And I saw Janice Hawks.
Good evening. My name is Janice Hawks, and I sit here trembling in the inside because we all grew up in Blackstone, and my daddy was a hunter. This is not the first time we've had people with guns. You know, we grew up around guns. So let's get that part straight. Second of all, if everybody would be honest, every time you turn on your TV, that's all it is bloodshed, murder. No, it may not be the gun. It may be the person that's behind the gun. Martin Luther King did stand for a whole lot of things. But his heart would be hurt today if we would look at from 60s to now to 2020. The guns now aren't like the guns were back then. My dad had a single barrel shotgun that he had to load, and it shot one time and he had to reload it. We have semi-automatic weapons. And when they were in Richmond the other day, or when they had it, if they, like they said, they had enough security. How much security, sir, are you going to have? You said you talked to Nottoway Sheriff's Office. We may have Blackstone Sheriff and Blackstone Police. How many people do that consist of? To the the number of people that's coming here. If you're gonna do anything, preparation is the first thing that you need to consider. Are you really prepared? That's all I keep hearing. Are we really prepared for that? How many other localities are coming here to assist you, sir, with police and security and all of that? Who is helping you as this militia?
Now, we will work hand in hand with any local police department, especially Blackstone and the Nottaway Sheriff's Department.
And state police.
Two localities.
And state police.
There's also the state police.
Okay, so how many people have they said are coming? State police, how many people are you gonna have here? See, those are the kind of things that people need to know. You're saying, okay, yeah, all of you in here probably have a gun. You probably have several guns. Now that they made the motion that you can't get a semi-automatic rifle until July, after July you can't get but one of my, so some of you probably have already brought more than just one.
Now, I cannot control how many officers are sent. That's
And,
not my
and see,
position.
that's my question. You cannot control, but have you asked this, state police how many were gonna come here? Blackstone, how many do we have? Nottaway. So what's else gonna be going on that day that our support or our officers are gonna be at this location? So what is gonna be going on all around?
So what, are you expecting violence, bloodshed?
Sir,
Because
sir,
if there's anything that, in the slightest hint, we're calling the police. Anything. Someone steps out of line, it's over.
but you just said the police gonna already be there.
Then what's your concern?
But that's what I'm saying. You're saying
If the police are gonna be there,
there.
then what's your
Let's don't go back and forth with each other. I think we've all got a good the members of council have got a good grasp of the concerns, the yay and the nay. And as I said earlier during my point of order, there's no request before the council. We've heard pleas tonight, and we have heard comments tonight. We've heard defense of the event. I want to turn it over to members of council. Any members of council have any questions? Mr. Robertson? Yes, Ms. Hasbro.
Yes, my question is about security. What is the plan for the town for security for this event? There probably will be counter protesting at this event, I'm imagining, and what is planned?
That's like asking me how many folks are coming to the Christmas parade. I imagine, Chief, would you be, I know it's a Saturday, would you be willing, you normally have 2 or 3 officers on duty during the day. Any thoughts? I hate to put you on the spot, but any thoughts just offhand?
No, you're fine. You're not putting me on the spot. So it's my understanding, I'm well aware of the flyer and the proposal. So my plan was to meet with Mr. Robertson after this evening, find out what he thought might happen, and then it's going to be up to me to determine how many folks locally from the state police that we can have to assist us with the event, to make sure everybody's safe.
And sometimes in these events, Chief, and I'm just going back from the event we had in the fall with the racial unity march, sometimes the officers you see, there are a lot more that you don't see.
Yes, that's typical in a gathering. There are some officers in uniform and some
Right.
that are not.
Right. Ms. Hasbrook, thank you.
I had another question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What is the signing up for this organization? What are the requirements that you have for the members?
Well, first of all, you have to be legally allowed to own a firearm. Anyone who says they actually want to join the Virginia Civil Guard will require a background check. And then we'll proceed from there, because we're not just going to let anyone join and help out the community. We're going to make sure that these guys aren't registered sex offenders and that they're not felons. Because we have to ensure the safety of the town.
Any domestic violence, will that be considered into the?
That will be considered.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other?
I support the Second Amendment wholeheartedly, but is it a possibility of an alternative location, not necessarily in the middle of town?
The reason why we picked Schwartz's Tavern, originally we thought we were going to do the park right by Main Street and Church Street, but we didn't want rubberneckers to be driving through and causing problems. Blackstone is easily accessible. It's right near a lot of businesses. It's going to be lunchtime. These guys are going to get hungry. And it's just a perfect spot. There's also a parking lot right by Ace Hardware. It's just best for parking, and it's right off the highway. It's very easy to get to that spot rather than some backwoods homestead. And we wanted it to be public, so everyone can see what we were doing, that nothing's done in secret.
I'm gonna ask Mr. Clark a question. Would it set your heart at ease a little more if they did choose the field beside the Armory? Would that make a difference for you?
And yes, no, because that's why I opened in the Armory. I would be comfortable if it was inside the Armory or at the sports complex.
Okay, inside the Armory.
And the public be notified what kind of security is gonna be there. Man, people's are nervous.
Okay.
You don't know what, I mean, I
No.
don't understand.
No, I understand, William.
It's common sense. It's complicated, it's common sense.
Any other members of council with questions?
But there's nothing keeping, I mean, we can't tell them.
There's no street closure.
There's no street closure.
I asked the town manager, I was afraid I gave him wrong advice or recited town policy incorrectly, and town manager said that I did recite policy correctly, so,
What we have with the taverns, everybody knows, there's only really 2 or 3 events during the course of the year that we typically have over there. Car shows, or, I'm not sure if the organization, that's just Walter Mack individually, but we have car shows over there on a regular basis. There's not a permit application. There simply is, Walter Mack comes before us every year and gives us a schedule and coordinates Porta Johns and all that kind of stuff. Arts and crafts, I think they come before you, before the Arts and Crafts Festival.
there's a street closure,
That's what they're doing. But really, as far as anything at the tavern itself, we don't have a form. We don't have a typical application process other than come to the podium and let the council know what you're doing and see if council will approve it. And, Schwartz Tavern is different from Sea Park and is different from the town square and it's different from Wrigglesworth. Wrigglesworth has an application. Sea Park has an application. Town Square has an application. But we've never created one for Schwartz Tavern. It's just not been
one of those things.
Not been an issue. So as far as a permit being issued, I would say nothing more than acquiescence by the council to do that. As Walter Mack comes to you every year and gets permission to do the car show.
But that's also, he opens a building, doesn't he, for the bathrooms, or has Porta Johns?
We've done Porter Johns up until this year, I think.
When he picked the bathrooms up at the Armory, he may have been keeping them open, but,
Does council just try to wing it here and get this, we got a big meeting tonight. Is anybody, I know the Armory's sort of been tabooed, is there a preference of council to put it inside the Armory? Or use the ballpark, or any suggestions from council? Other than that, I'm gonna move on with the
I think
agenda.
we've already agreed to keep the Armory shut down until.
Right, until this referendum is over.
How about if, like I said, we can't stop them from doing it. So how about if we leave it up to law enforcement? If they feel like it's a point where it's not a secure area, then they have the authority to shut it down right then and there.
Which he does by code anyway. I read a lot of rulings by the ACLU. It's hard to limit demonstrations or assemblies in the public square, but this Virginia code does authorize a sheriff or a police chief, if they feel that they use the word riotous, getting sort of like a riot or someone unruly, they do have authority at that point to shut it off. And of course, we all know what happened in Charlottesville. I was there this past weekend, as a matter of fact. Certainly no one wants that here. And I don't like the fact that people can leave this meeting tonight upset or concerned or scared. That weighs on me heavily, but weighing on me more heavily than that is freedom. And I know y'all think that's a canned phrase, but I think the right to display and assemble is a Second Amendment issue and a First Amendment issue. And if there's no other business on this topic, we're going to move on with the agenda. Does anybody have anything else to say?
So is there a request or not?
There's been a request made.
It doesn't have to be a request.
There's no request required for what he's asked.
But we just asked that if you want to get up with the sheriff chief and whatever you guys decide, if it gets to a point where you think it's, or want to rule it insecure or unsafe, you shut it down right then and there. I don't think that's going to be the problem. I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Our hands is tied. There's nothing we can do. So we need to let them know.
Chief had the floor. And just again, folks, we heard this. We're not trying to, there was no request for a permit because no request was needed by town policy. So we've heard the nays, we've heard the concerns, we've heard the defense, and at this point, it's Saturday, March 14th from 12 to 2, 12 to 1:30, somewhere in there?
12 to 1.
Okay.
Then a short message after.
Okay. 12 to 1 and a short message thereafter. I'm gonna move on with the agenda. If you like to stay, you're welcome to stay. If you want to go, this would be a good time to go. We're gonna go on with our 4 public hearings. We have a refinancing of, we're gonna be recessed, 2-minute recess. 2-minute recess.